Okay.
Okay, looks good. Okie dokie. I will take it away, Rolf. All right.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. My name is Steph. Full name Stefania, but I go by Steph. I will talk a little bit about myself on the next slide. So here is my short and sweet kind of general presentation on climate outreach using social media. Um, don't forget to mute your mics when
Yes,
you're
yes.
part of this. Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm an environmental science graduate, so I got my degree in environmental studies at UC Santa Cruz, and then I got my master's degree in environmental management from Oregon State University. I worked as an outdoor educator for Headwaters Outdoor School and a few other public charter schools in Colorado and in California. So I worked a lot with connecting kids and teenagers with the outdoors and learning about local ecologies and conservation. And then most recently, for the last few years, I was a wildlife biologist working with northern spotted owls in Northern California. So working with protecting and helping survey endangered species, doing a lot of field work, getting to work with a lot of amazing wildlife and creatures. And then I moved to Sweden in March of this year and happened to meet Rolf at a rally, and then he introduced me to the Fridays for Future group, and I am currently the Fridays for Future newsletter Instagram manager. In my free time, I also have to still work and do other things, so I'm currently working at a restaurant, but that's not as fun as this part. So, one thing I wanted to kind of share is just first what other groups do when it comes to climate outreach, climate education, and activism. This group, Protect Our Winters, is a nonprofit organization that I've been following for many, many years. They're really great because they partner with athletes who actually like go out into the mountains and go mountaineering and see how climate change is affecting our glaciers and outdoor recreation in general. So they share those unique stories. They also do make an effort to publish a lot of their efforts because they go to Congress a lot and bring in a lot of petitions and stuff. So they try to share positive news on how their work is affecting just policies and stuff. And then they also partner a lot with other organizations on their Instagram posts to just collaborate more. Another group that I really like to highlight is Climate Cardinals. Their big effort is to translate climate change news into as many languages as possible because I think their statistics say something like 90% of climate change news is published only in English. So a lot of the world actually doesn't really get the science and education about our climate change that they could be receiving because it's just not translated into their language. On their social media, though, they highlight a lot of activists' work. They also publish a lot of news, and they have a lot of local groups and chapters around the world. And so they post a lot of stories from those specifically local groups, which is really great for engaging different communities. And then lastly, the more famous Instagram account that a lot of people follow, they have almost 4 million followers, is Greenpeace. They're more, the way they use social media is more for like posting a lot of memes and stuff that people can really share. So they make a lot of shareable content. I don't really see a lot of community engaging posts from them, but they post often. I see posts from them multiple times a day sometimes. They use a lot of humor in their posts, which keeps you engaged. And then on their website, they have a lot of petitions and calls to action that they actually draw people in to then go do. So, not my favorite group for social media use, but they're very effective with it, obviously, based on their follower count. So, my experience is mostly with Instagram. So, I was trying to break my mind how to introduce this topic on a basic level, and I was just told to just talk about the basics. So, for Instagram, it's very simple. You just make an account, you make sure you have a name that represents your group, a profile picture of your logo, one line about your group, Emojis are a very useful thing in Instagram because it is a picture heavy and visual app. So being more visual with a lot of infographics is the best way to go about it. The most important thing about your bio is having some sort of link in your bio when you're making your account. I actually designed a free website that links a bunch of different stuff for the newsletter. But if your group only has one website or something, you can just include that one link so that people can then go to your group. If you have a Facebook group, you can link that. So just some way for people to discover you and then engage with you further beyond Instagram is a really important thing. And then if you're making a group account, it needs to be public so that more people can actually find you and interact with you. Because if you're private, only your followers and people you follow back will be able to see your content. So on Instagram, I'm sure a lot of people know there's this big thing with hashtags. Hashtags, nobody understands exactly why they're so useful, but I like to think of hashtags as like a public library. So when you write hashtag, for example, Fridays for Future, anything that's has to do with Fridays for Future, any post, any video, any picture that people want to talk about Fridays for Future, all of those will end up on that hashtag, and you can actually click onto the hashtag when you properly write it in. So it's just a really great way to first catalog your posts when you're making them, and then that's the easiest way for people that don't follow your account to actually engage and discover your post because they can be scrolling through the library of hashtags and stumble across your post and then follow you and engage, which is really, really handy. And then tagging, which is using the @ sign when you're writing a description or when you're making a post, there's a button called tag people and collaborators. That's really great for collaborating with other accounts, other groups, and providing credit on posts. So because we're a newsletter, we sometimes feature guest authors and stuff, and I always make sure when I post about their article, I tag them in the Instagram post so that they can then share that and then retag and spread their article the way they want to as well, and giving them credit for it. So a really good way to expand beyond just posting on your own account and then stopping there. For buttons, I've been using Instagram for a really long time and they keep changing it up every so often. So there we have our basic buttons like comment, and then it gets more fancy. So now they added a repost on your feed button, which is the two arrows. And then if you see on the photo, there's two accounts with the blue or the purple two arrow symbol. That just means that those accounts actually reposted your post onto their feed. And that essentially means that you made the post, it's credited to you, but then they can repost it, and then that your post will then be featured on their feed as if they made it, but it's still you're credited. And then that person's followers can see what you did, and that gets more followers and gets engagement. The other button is send or add to story, which I use that button a lot. Usually people do that to share like news or memes with their friends, like on private accounts, like people just send posts to one another. That's what they use. I use it specifically to add to story, and I will talk about that on the next slide. And then the little bookmark save for later, I never use that for the because that's just saving a post for like future reference, which Instagram isn't really like an archive personally, so I don't really use that button. But if you want to save something for your own viewership in the future, you can. So stories are this is at the very top of your main page on Instagram. Stories are posts that last for only 24 hours. So when you click the little button with the little airplane, you can click add to story and then you can share it to just your story, which down here you can see that. And this you can share any post you want on Instagram, which is really cool. And that highlights it and people can just kind of mindlessly scroll through these stories, which is helpful for people who are not really actively looking for anything, but they just want to engage with something for a bit. And because it only lasts 24 hours, it doesn't feel as spammy as using and making posts all the time. And it's just an easy way, at least for any newsletter group like us, to stay consistent and persistent online. I like to use the word chronically online because every day I spend like at least 30 minutes scrolling through Instagram and posting different news and different activist groups and different Fridays for Future groups, making sure that everyone's highlighted and everyone's talked about so that everyone's engaged in the sphere. So that's just the Instagram basics. Obviously, if you have questions, we will talk about it at the end. So my big thing is I've been a social media person for a few different groups, and I've found that there's these super awesome things called algorithms. So social media really only rewards people who are constantly online, constantly posting, and constantly are like doing something online. If you let your account sit alone for too long, you're not going to really get that far. The algorithm rewards those who spend more time on the internet. Unfortunately, that's just how it's set up. So the easiest way to actually get your word out there and be engaged with a bunch of people is to post regularly. Like I try to make at least one post a week for the newsletter group. Even with my work schedule and craziness, I try my best. And with the daily posting on the story or liking another group's post or just reposting a post, that keeps me engaged enough that our newsletter Instagram account is slowly still gaining followers. Um, I don't have a posting schedule, but when I did this more full time, it was incredibly useful. For tip number two, we're not really trying, at least for Fridays for Future, it's not about getting a bunch of followers. That's why Greenpeace is awesome in what they do, but they definitely are more followers focused. So they're just trying to get those numbers on their accounts up, while Fridays for Future should really be about community. So following other Fridays for Future accounts, Fridays for Future activists, liking everyone's post, maybe commenting. I always try to repost and share like any activists going out and striking. I always try to share that. Any polls and questions that other activist groups might be sharing and creating just to create that sort of like conversation online so it doesn't feel like we're all just robots talking to each other. Um, I have yet to receive a comment on one of our posts, but if you do get comments on your posts, like try to reply to them so that there's an ongoing conversation. Um, Hashtags are awesome, but also if you use a million of them, then your post gets really lost and it's not really as effective. In my experience, 3 to 5 hashtags per post is really just all you need. It just needs to be specific. So if you're making a post about climate change rally or a specific event, you can make a hashtag that's specifically that event, like Climate Strike 2026, for example. Um, and then I like to mix hashtags with my text when I make it the post and I write the description. I write like, this week we're talking about hashtag ocean conservation, and I make that a tag so that it's more natural in the post and so it's not as jarring and annoying to people. And then a lot of mistakes that I've been observing by doing this is I definitely get exhausted with my phone and being on Instagram all the time because a lot of accounts that the algorithm pushes towards me right now because I am a climate change activist group on the online. I definitely get a lot of doom, just so much bad news and so much like we're all on fire, everything's on fire. Oh my God. And it's exhausting sometimes. So it's really nice, I think, to actually engage people who are not robots and who actually want to be inspired and everything. You need to post good news and you need to share good stories and you need to create some sort of hope in this like tsunami of doom. So that's one mistake that I think a lot of activist groups make, and so we're trying to continue to inspire people instead of consistently creating like everything's on fire news. Inconsistent presence, as I said, the algorithm really only rewards those who are online all the time. So if you are really inactive with your account, you're not going to get far with it. It's just not going to go anywhere and you're not going to get that much attention and it's just going to slowly slow down and nothing's ever going to really happen. So it takes a lot of patience and a lot of persistence, and you just have to keep going and chugging along. And some of your posts will do really well, and some of them will not do well at all. And that's just how it is with the online universe. Um, Call to action is really important. So if I make a lot of informational posts because we are a newsletter. So I make posts about articles and stuff. But I really like articles and I like making posts that have a clear, like, you can do this to help. Like, you can sign this petition. It's now linked in our bio. And that's really helpful because that engages people more and people are more likely to be inspired and actually feel like they can do something. Um, and then ignoring comments or direct messages. But yeah, I don't really get those yet, so can't really say much on that. Yeah, and then a big other thing that I wish I had more time for, but unfortunately I have to work in a restaurant to afford bills. If I were fully doing just social media for Fridays for Future, I would be on all of these social medias because not everyone uses Instagram. Instagram is kind of very visual and picture heavy, and so that's already like inaccessible to people who might not be visual or like have eyesight problems or anything like that. So and Instagram is really like it's all about making picture posts or videos. You can't really make any events or anything. Facebook is great for actually organizing and making an event that people can get invited to and people know in physical location that they can go somewhere. Um, Mastodon and Blue Sky kind of work like Twitter, so it can be a consistent mini newsletter in its own, which and it has more capability to have actually linking what you want to be talking about. So really expanding and using every social media you can if you have the time to is the best approach to actually engaging with a larger audience. Just Instagram on itself is kind of like pigeonholed and it has to be visual and it takes a lot of time. Okay. That is all I kind of came up with, but I am happy to answer any questions, even if they don't have anything to do with with what I talked about. But yeah, whenever whoever wants to ask a question, they can.
Uh, First one up is Luis Rafael Zambrano Escutia. Bienvenido. Welcome.
Muchas gracias. Hello, everybody. And well, my question is very simple. Uh, I would like to know if you know if you have succeeded sharing your experience by using the social media, or how do you measure that you have a positive impact on people, trying to convince that we have to do something about the environment?
One thing that we are tracking is over time how much engagement we get on that's the nice thing about social media. Like you can actually have analytics and see how many followers you've gotten over the last week or how many people saw that one video you posted. I personally have observed that with the uptick of people seeing and like random people finding our posts just in the Etherverse, we've had more readers come to the newsletter and actually click on our articles. I don't know about subscribers to the newsletter because don't always see those analytics, but on the website ourselves, I've seen like a bigger increase in viewership on articles. So measuring impact, I don't know if we're a bit too small to really see a big scope, but over time, I think just being able to observe like larger viewership, and I know some of my friends back in the US have followed the Instagram account and they don't know about a lot of things happening in the US, and so us posting about it keeps them informed, and then they text me like, "Oh, I signed that petition because I didn't even know that was happening." So, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
I've got a number of questions. And I guess my first one is, if you look at social media and you have the Instagram and Facebook and Mastodon and Twitter and all this, which one is most effective in the outreach towards the people that would, let's start first with the ones who are more or less concerned about issues of climate or peace and justice. And then also those who are like, they're not sure, but we should reach them precisely because they are not sure. Or they're hesitant in doing something, even if they know a little bit that it's wrong. Like there's a statistic out that's floated around that 89% of people questioned in this huge analysis reported that they were concerned about climate change. And yet the gap between that concern and what they're doing is very small. So that's the target group that's very important to reach. And of course, some of the difficulties that we've had is we haven't reached them.
Yeah.
But then you get the other side too, that is intentionally not wanted, does not want you to reach them. And even like the discouragement factor that you're talking about, the gloom and doom, is in part, in my opinion, manufactured. So what I'm asking about is targets and what is more effective in the social media when you have all these that you're mentioning, like, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not entirely well versed because my education isn't really on communications, but from what I've observed, a lot of younger people who are like Generation Z and younger, they are on Instagram and TikTok, and they are stuck a lot of the times in the misinformation loops. And so that like especially TikTok is like horrible about spreading like misinformation. That is just like where all of the misinformation happens. And then I've observed that older generations, like especially like boomers and Gen X, they really like to sit on Facebook and LinkedIn. Those are their two main things. LinkedIn is definitely more professional. So LinkedIn is where you go to connect with people who already believe in climate change and they work in climate change like professionally. That's their whole career. That's a really great place to find like academics in climate change or different like organizations and stuff. And that's a more professional social media. Facebook is definitely more loose, and there's a lot going on Facebook and also a lot of misinformation. And so I can't really speak to the best one to use. That's why I say that using multiple will reach all kinds of different people, because depending on setting, place, age, race, like people use different apps to connect.
And related to this question and the answer, obviously we are shorthanded, and there are people out there who would like to help on these different social media channels. How do we reach those people to encourage them to step up to help?
So a helpful thing that I've seen a few groups do is that instead of having like a vague, like, if you want to help, just reach out. Like there's a group that I really admire that I haven't really reached out to yet, but they're based in Sweden and they're all about protecting forests. And they have on their website, they're like, if you want to help, these are like the 5 different categories of help we need. Like if you are good at social media and like making Instagram posts, please reach us here. If you're a biologist that wants to help with some research, like you can reach us here. And I think the best way to do it is just keep sharing the word and spreading the like just word of mouth is also the best way to do it because social media is essentially just word of mouth, but memorized by an algorithm. It's difficult to really establish yourself in social media these days because there's so much going on, and with AI getting bigger, it's definitely starting to lose that like human factor. But I think social media is still a more powerful tool to use to actually reach more people by just keep throwing rocks and hopefully one hits a window with someone who wants to pay attention.
Yes, mine, I'm Frank. Mine is to ask what kind of tone should we use when addressing that burning issue of climate change and climate justice. Should we just use a informational tone? I mean, being neutral, being calm, or rather with some level of arousal? I mean, being alarm. Let me say, alarming is something like that. And also, I don't know when we publish posts, should we have all the time like problem focused or solution focused, or rather to say to preach the dooms, or rather to say, okay, there is hope and that kind of tone, or to say, no, alarming tone, or to encourage or to confront? What kind of attitude should we bring there to our audience to get them hooked? Because when we publish, sometimes do we invite them, or it is an invitation or an obligation? Which kind of language, attitudes, and even our article, when we publish, most of the time say it is a research-based post, or just testimonial or testimony from the community, from individuals. So yeah, those kind of things. Thank you.
Yeah. I think the best thing is to do a mix of everything. That's what I've been trying to do with the newsletter. It's the tone, it depends on because you can have different kinds of posts and it depends on what you're trying to do. I think if you're an activist group, you should include more posts about calls to action. So we are striking on this day because of this thing happening in our community. And bringing it more community based will get more attention locally than constantly sharing international news because international news is shared constantly anyway. So you're not really making anything new. So the tone that I would say is more useful in community based is just a more not urgent, but inviting for sure, and calling people to gather and do something. And then providing a hopeful attitude to it. Like, we did this project and like in this other community that did the same thing, like they got these results and they did so well, and like we can do that too. I think that hopeful attitude is a lot better than being like, oh, like this evil corporation is going to destroy everything and like we're like unless we gather like it really depends on what is happening in your community. And so the tone needs to match the urgency of what is happening. It's really hard for me to really speak on this because I'm not an expert. I just have been interested in social media and I've been doing it for so long. For the newsletter, like I make a lot of informational posts that don't have any calls to action and they're just really neutral. And so they just talk about what the article talks about and fun graphics. And then sometimes I make a post like, we can't like sit by idly and let this happen. We need to do something about it. Please sign this petition or something. So it really depends. And yeah, unfortunately, I'm not a big expert on that. I definitely would want to reach out to someone who actually knows what they're talking about a little bit more. But yeah.
Good.
Are there any more questions out there? Otherwise, I will jump in with related to the question that was just presented. I'm going to try to share my screen because Marshall Gans, who's a person involved in trying to organize people, has a system here of a breakdown. And I find this always helpful when I'm thinking about, well, how do we get people involved? And maybe you'd like to comment on that because it breaks it down into really 5 basic elements. And I don't know if you can see my screen. I hope you can. You all see it, I hope?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And they're related to action motivators and action inhibitors. And not that one should think mechanically, but I think they're all very helpful. And just as examples, things that bring people to do something. And you may relate this, Steffi, in your opinion, to what social media does the best in these areas. There's the urgency, the anger factor, the hope factor, the solidarity factor, and the YCMAD, which stands for You Can Make a Difference. And maybe you want to make a comment on those. I just think that this is really helpful when we're thinking about what we are trying to do and what the opposition is trying to do, because they're precisely trying to do all these things on the left-hand side that we have to overcome at the same time.
Yeah, definitely agree. I think what's funny to me is anger is kind of the fallback emotion that a lot of just anyone uses online because anger is the one that gets the biggest reaction. And I know that Facebook's algorithms really reward angry, violent posts, which is very unfortunate. So angry posts get the most engagement on human, I think, human just design. And so that's why I prefer to stay away from Facebook because a lot of people, there's this new trend called anger baiting. So people will do or post or say something that's misinformed or wrong or just, and they're trying to get a reaction to get famous essentially, or to get like a few minutes of fame online. And so I strongly recommend to stay away from anger as a motivator, especially already in a sea of angry people. I really prefer the You Can Make a Difference posts because they are more positive and they're not exhausting as the anger or the urgency posts may be. Luis.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you want to comment more? Otherwise, we have a question from Luis.
Yes.
Go ahead, Luis.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, there are many people in the world that don't have the chance to be in contact with the environment. For example, they cannot be very close to a nice forest surrounded by trees. And obviously they don't have this experience and never had felt this beauty. And obviously they had never probably be attached to the environment and the beauty of the environment. And the question is, how can you reach and motivate this kind of people that in the world there are many, because the cities nowadays are bigger and well, they are growing up and destroying the environment, no? So the question is, how can you motivate this kind of people that never had felt or been in touch with the nature?
Yeah. So it's really interesting that you say that, because my whole career revolved around connecting kids, inner city kids, with nature. So that was part of what I did as a job. It's really hard to create that connection to nature if you've never been outside. You're completely correct. I think sharing, one thing that's been really amazing, like we have people like David Attenborough who have made so many nature documentaries and all that. And I think I try to follow a lot of accounts of photographers and people who go out and about and take beautiful photos. And I really like photos that show change over time, because a lot of the time we just don't notice things as time goes on. So photos of like cities expanding, like satellite photos, or glaciers slowly melting, that just, I think those kind of images do evoke some sort of like human feeling inside of us a little bit, where even if you're an inner city kid, you can see that, like, for me, like my neighborhood where I grew up, I went and visited it 15 years later, and it used to be surrounded by forest and farmland, and now it's a giant suburban sprawl. And that's heartbreaking. And it's showing those children that, like, all these little pockets where you get to be a kid and you get to hide and like and just be yourself in these little natural pockets, like they're all slowly getting smaller and disappearing. And that just evokes a feeling of like despair a little bit, but then posting, but you can protect that by signing this, or by going out and protesting, or by planting a tree, or like literally just having your own garden in like, or like a balcony garden is a big one. It's just creating posts and creating messages about small actions are big actions, like, and not creating this thought that you are useless. Like, you want to inspire kids and you want to inspire adults, that even like going outside and like putting a bird bath like out when it's really hot out so that a bird can cool off is already such a big action. And that creates like a natural connection to nature that we may not like have grown up with.
It makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, when you are raising some children at home, if they haven't experienced this contact with the nature, it's obviously very hard to try to convince them that the nature is important for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah.
A related thought that I had yesterday in Sweden, we're experiencing temperatures that are unusually warm, 32, 33 degrees. And talking to people by asking a question, just a very simple question. It's hot now and it's terrible. Where do you think it will be in 10 years? Because the massive number of people, in my view, have no conception how bad it's going to get. And I don't punish them or condemn them for that, because I think they've been so manipulated in their minds that they have no idea where this entire movement is going, or climate change is going. So raising a simple question that's not too harsh, let them think about it. And sooner or later, they will catch on. Something's wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shirley, do you have a good question you'd like to raise? Shirley always has great questions.
I think Jackson raised his hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jackson. Good.
Jackson
Welcome.
Kisangani.
Jackson, you raised your hand?
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
loud and clear.
I'm sorry, my network is not good. Yes, I'm Jackson Kisangani. I'm the activist for peace and climate justice. So I didn't get you follow since you began with the speech. I'm sorry for the delay, but I heard a linked to this topic. My question is to knowing that if the requesting, if I request a collaboration, if requesting a collaboration is essential for a post to gain wide visibility on Instagram, or I would like to know if there are other ways besides collaboration to reach a larger audience on Instagram. Thank you.
Yeah. So I accepted I think it was you or PCJ's collaboration post recently, this past week. Collaboration is great because it connects two big groups and then you connect the two audiences, which is awesome. I think hashtags are a really easy way to get your posts into the hashtag library, as I was talking about earlier. Because people who may not be following you might be scrolling through the hashtag library and see your post and get interested and click on it. And that's an easy way. Tagging people is just really helpful if you're working with a bunch of different private accounts also, like different activists. You can tag them in your post if they were participating in an event that you're doing or in the post, and then their friends and family can see that they were a part of this event. Obviously, get their consent first before you just tag them, but that's a good way. And then reposting other people's stuff is just, it puts you on the map, and the algorithm, the big evil machine algorithm, sees that you're engaged with other people, and then the algorithm rewards you for that because it might push your post onto like it has like an AI like recommended for you page. So like just the algorithm will put stuff, your post, for example, onto other people's recommended stuff. So yeah, I think the easiest way to really get out there is proper use of hashtags, continuing to collaborate with a lot of accounts, tagging people, and then liking and engaging with other accounts as much as possible.
Right.
Yeah, thank you so much for your information. Myself, I'm from Kisangani. Yes, I'm Elokele from Kisangani. So I thank you so much for the intervention.
More questions, anyone? Shirley, are you there?
I'm here and I'm embarrassed to ask my question because I don't use social media. My question is, what is social media for?
That's a good question because I think the definition and the point of social media kind of got lost along the way. I think when it was originally created in when I was like in fourth grade, whenever Facebook really was created, I think that was the real birth of social media. And I think originally social media was meant to privately connect you to your friends so that you have a space online to hang out in. I think that was the point. Slowly but surely, it's devolved into whatever it is today. I think the point today, depending on how you use it, it can be for outreach, it can be used to just share information, it can be used to share your art, it can be used to promote and market your business. I think the original, like, it's meant to only talk to your friends definition of social media is long gone. It's more about really just engaging in the giant internet conversation and trying to get your voice to be heard.
Thank you. Is it protected?
Depends. So if you have a private account, you have certain protections in place, so people can't see your content, they can't see your opinions and all that. If you post publicly, you have a lot less protections. Recently, Instagram released this whole thing where if you have a public account, and you don't disable certain features, if you post your face or you like post videos of yourself on a public account and you basically consent to it, they can then use your face and likeness in AI videos. So social media is definitely, it can be a dangerous place, but it can also be a really great place to like share, create, and talk to people around the world. So it's definitely like, I don't know how to approach it. I have a love-hate relationship with it. That's all I'm gonna say.
More questions?
Jackson?
Yes. Yeah. I'm sorry. I did not really. I was not well convinced. I'm sorry. I would like really to know. I'm not from the domain, but Stephanie, today is becoming more challenging to reach a large audience organically on social media. So understanding the right strategies to improve visibility and create more impact
Use
is therefore
multiple.
very important.
Yeah.
I would like now to ask two other questions. What are the most effective strategies to really increase organic reach on Instagram in this 2027? And the second, what recommendations would you give to an organization working on peace and climate justice like PCJ Africa to grow its visibility and and reach more people and increase its impact on Instagram? Because we would like really to work on it.
Yeah, so it's hard for me to answer that because I run the newsletter Instagram just as a volunteer basis. So I'm not an expert on this. So, but I think the best things that I've seen and seen work for other accounts is just consistent posting. I think branding is really important, unfortunately, for like if you want to become a big organization, you need to have a consistent brand image. So this using the same color scheme for every post, using the same two fonts so that you become recognizable online. Because if you make a random like post every single time, it just kind of gets lost and people don't remember you. But if you have like a
Consistency.
really chosen branding image that people can memorize your posts by, that's really helpful. And then to be more visible and to get more recognized, I would honestly recommend seeing if you can partner with existing organizations that are already like really established. Like even Greenpeace, like I'm not a huge fan of them personally, just the way they do things is really like doom and gloomy, but they do get reactions and they have a lot of followers. So I think reaching out to large organizations, basically doing some research on Instagram, seeing which accounts have a lot of followers, and then messaging them and seeing if they would want to collaborate on something. I'm sure Climate Cardinals would actually be really great about this. But yeah.
I've noticed some comments have come in on the chat box. And Fred, let's see. Okay, Fred is thanking for the amazing information and the session. And Shirley talks about the differences between social media post versus newsletter article, length, visuals. What else is important for social media strengths and weaknesses? Have we addressed that or?
For social media posts, you want them short, sweet, and visually appealing. That's the easiest way to summarize that. For the newsletter, like I don't post about every single article that we publish because I don't have time. I would be, but I don't have time. But I try to just really summarize articles into like 4 sentences in the best way I can, and then I make just a very visually like catchy post. I mean, I definitely leaned into a more like aggressive post more recently because we were talking about the EATS Act in the US with animals and stuff, and so I used like really insane graphics with like blood splatter and stuff because that just grabs attention, and it definitely is a little insane, but people are more likely to look at it and be like, "Whoa, what is that?" I do know that having less is better on Instagram, like being captivating with a single sentence is better than trying to fit an entire article into a post is definitely the way to go.
Fred, do you have a question by chance? Or are you speaking to someone else?
No, it is
question,
not me.
Fred?
I'm not speaking. It's somebody else there.
Oh, sorry. No, Fred, I was thinking maybe I had a question there. You have
Yeah, basically, I've posted one piece, which is our news. We have a newspaper called Green. Green is some article we produce after every month. That is, we produce it every month to show what we are engaged in. So I've shared it for everyone to see where we have gaps, and maybe I could get feedback another time we get to the core. And
is this this is in the chat box then, Fred, I imagine, right? Where you posted that? Yeah, under green update there for everyone's reference. Go on, please. Or do you have anything more to add, Fred?
Yes. Yeah, my other issue was, do we have specific information we have to reflect on social media, like in the newspaper, that we should, in the news article, or like if we do an activity this week, YouTube may need to be updated, Facebook may need to be updated, LinkedIn will need to be updated, the same information, or we can share like this same article, we post it on different areas at the end of the month, or news brief after the activity, something like that.
It is better to do so.
Okay.
Do you want to respond to that, Steph? Or
I'm not entirely sure. So
you can use multiple social media as
To
suggested by Stefania. Yeah.
to report
get
the
more
same.
visibility.
Okay.
yeah, different people use different apps and prefer to interact in different ways. So posting on various different social medias is the best way to reach more people.
Oh, great. So, Steph, my name is Fred Mugera Mjisha. I'm from Uganda, on the country's border with the Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm the founder and executive director of Permaculture Education Action and Community Empowerment Peace Foundation, which is a humanitarian involvement, not-for-profit community organization trying to weave permaculture and build resilience at community level.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
So, question from my side again. You take the opposition, which is a combination of climate deniers and for-profit forces that are extremely powerful. And how would you describe, or can you give examples of how they are in a sophisticated way dominating and infiltrating the social media?
I'm
That's a
like,
big one, but I think we all have to be aware of how powerful they are, even though we're not aware of it when they do their presentations.
yeah, so the big thing right now is social media is actually in its own way an interesting like uh place to be because a lot of mass news, like I'm speaking as an American citizen, obviously, for this part, is a lot of mass news like Fox News and CNN, and they're all kind of bought out by corporations like fossil fuels and stuff. So they will, and there's even been studies and statistics showing that on all the heat waves happening in Europe right now, only like 80% or only 20% of newspaper articles in Europe said that fossil fuels causes these heat waves, while everyone else just kind of said, "Oh, this is how you survive in a heat wave," which is awesome.
Right.
Social media is great because it's not dominated by these news corporations. It's actually more like people and smaller organizations and nonprofits and activist groups that can actually post their own version, and they can post their own the research that these news outlets may not want to post. So it's a great way to rebel against corporations in a sense because you can follow accounts that will highlight scientific articles, for example, of like this is what the science community discovered this week that nobody's talking about. And obviously, you need to double check your sources and make sure that that's a legit article that they're posting about. But it is still a good way to kind of disconnect from what the corporations want you to read and find your own sources of information that you can then double check with online resources.
So you're saying that there is more ability for the community at large to influence through the social media than the major corporations. And I guess a related question might be to that. How about the use of bots or bots to create influence and pretend that they're people when they're not really people?
That's a huge problem on Twitter, now known as X. That's why I didn't even feature that app in my presentation because I strongly oppose the use of that app because they have a lot of issues with bots taking over. What's really great about some apps, like on Instagram, if you know that a bot is posting something, you can report it and they usually get taken down very quickly.
Okay.
There's actually like some safeguard measures in place to control that. X, definitely not. That's why I don't recommend it.
How about the other channels? For instance, Facebook, I find very prejudiced in
Yeah,
spite of,
yeah,
yeah.
Facebook is problematic. Facebook, I wouldn't use Facebook to post about news. I would only use Facebook to meet events and try to bring people into the real world. Facebook is a good place to share just like what's happening in the local community. I wouldn't do any informational posts on Facebook. That's more of a like LinkedIn or Mastodon realm.
Do you consider, by the way, YouTube as a part of social media?
Yes, but YouTube is so much more work.
Yeah.
It's creating a video takes so much time and effort, and it's just not really accessible for a lot of people because uploading a video takes forever, and if you don't have a stable connection, it just fails. So YouTube is just not the most accessible social media. So I consider it a social media, but it's not the best. So I wouldn't like unless you have a lot existing like documentaries that you want to post and share, I wouldn't really rely on it.
Okay. Questions more from anyone else? Last chance. Luis Rafael.
Thank you again. Do you think that it's a good strategy to combine good news with bad news in your social media? I mean, for example, talking about a new species found in a lake as a good news, or suddenly one forest is being disappeared by the destroying the humankind, something like that.
Are you asking if you should include both? Is that your question?
Yeah. Is it a good strategy to combine this kind of bad news with good news sometimes? Just to make sure that the people are aware about the real situation in the nature.
Yeah.
Because if you
Maybe.
talk about the good news that is happening in the world, probably or perhaps the people is creating a wrong idea of the real situation.
Yeah. I'm more in the camp of you should share any information that exists, but it depends on the tone you use when you share it. So if we're talking, for example, my big thing right now is the Endangered Species Act in the US just got changed to not include habitat in their definition of harm, which is a whole thing. And so that's, to me, as a wildlife biologist, that's terrible news. But there's multiple organizations like the Center for Biological Diversity that are currently suing and the federal government to try to change that. And so I would post like, this just happened. This change in this law means that animals could lose habitat and become extinct. But very important on the but, this is how you can prevent that from happening by joining these groups that are fighting it. So it definitely share everything, but it depends on the tone you use. Because if you just share like, oh, this happened, sucks, now all these animals are gonna disappear, like that doesn't inspire anyone and that just makes more people depressed. Yeah, so it depends on the tone you use for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fred, yes.
I have a related question.
Yes.
So last year, we had an issue of war in Congo, and then we had, as Peace Foundation, were involved in supporting these refugees as they were entering the country, but also in the registration process and all that. So it was an overwhelming situation that there was killing happening in Congo, and these ones who are coming in Uganda needed assistance. So when they reach my district, Bundubujo, there's no assistance from the government that is arriving that 1, 2, 3 days, because Kampala has to, those bureaucracy. The humanitarian agencies have to arrive like after 3, 4 days. So I shared a footage. I shared a footage which had come from Congo about what is happening in the war zone. And then this footage, I shared it with a friend online, actually on a social media platform. Then one white person, one Muzungu, Stephanie?
Yeah, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, one white person, a female, started quarreling and complaining. Wow, Fred, why did you post this? You should have warned us not to open the video. It is too dangerous for me to see. You did bad to let me open it, but me, I've posted the situation of vulnerability happening here. And what is happening, it is not made by me. It is why we are saying, can we fundraise to support these people who are suffering? Others have already escaped, entered Uganda, but others are being killed in Congo. So I know that in the global south here, we have no problem with this information that comes, whether bad or good, because this is the reality that we are facing. So in the global north, it sounds like if someone
drama.
sees, yeah, if someone sees this happening, is this, oh, this is not good for me to see, but that's what is happening here. And that's what we're saying. Why can't we donate to these people who have saved their lives by giving them water, by giving them food? They have left their clothes. Others are coming when they are naked. So we are mobilizing the churches and the local community to get them clothing. And we are telling you, can you donate all the clothes? Some money we buy, we support these people. You are seeing them running when they are naked. But you are seeing also how they are being killed and tortured in the entire village. Everyone is running. And for you, you're emotional. You don't want to, yeah. How do we best present such realities?
So what would your question then be? Or is it a statement?
I
Do you
think
have a question for Steffi?
I think the question is, how do you present
More ethical, huh?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's important to share that that's happening. I think depending on how you post on Instagram, you can create you can put several pictures on a post, and the first picture can be just a text post of like, warning, the next like video can be unsafe for viewers or like whatever, or like can have content that might be like disappointing, or just having like a little warning sign, and then and then include those videos because it's important to share that, and then in the description just explaining what's happening. But yeah, you don't want to shock people, but it's important to share that information. It's important to share those videos. It's important to share those pictures, but you want to ease people in, because if you shock people too much, you lose engagement, you lose followers, and you can also get flagged and banned from Instagram because they have certain rules about what can be posted. So yeah, I do have to run in about 2 minutes. So if there's any last minute questions, I can quickly answer before I have to go.
Yeah. One final question. Is there anyone who'd like to raise a question? Okay, I just want to make a final statement here that we are going to have another climate talk for everyone. And in this case, it will be several talks simultaneously going on over 3 days on August 27th, 28th, and 29th at a conference in Kenya and Nairobi. And you're all invited to participate. But I'd also urge, and we are urging, you have watch parties where you invite people in to sit with you and listen to some of the talks. And you can select, obviously, which talks you want to listen to during the course. For some in the United States, it may be off hours, but we've tried to coordinate that there will be some talks also that are given in the US and in America, the continent of America. So, and Steffi, thank you for your sharing your knowledge, your experience, and do feel free to look at the video because this all will be recorded and we will be circulating it and posting it on Climate Talks for Everyone within about 1 week. So thank you so much, and hats off to you for a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Yeah, likewise. Good.
Thank you.
So thank you all. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luis.